Let me do it again.
What are you talking
I'm
about?
like, you can do that even better.
What are you talking about?
With you in my life, you make life worth living. Love of my life, be the center. I will gladly place you in the middle, rule and abide in me. Be the center.
Something about soul that's humorous and sexy and real and loving and familial and in some ways darn near tribal, depending on what the song is.
I mean, when you hear just the name soul, it kind of gives you an idea of what it's all about. It's music from the soul. It has a spiritual resonance.
Soul is just the feeling you get of goodness, very reminiscent of what you would hear in a spiritual setting.
Soul to me has a stronger pull with what is going on within a person, and there is no set formula for it. Soul can be applied to rock, it can be applied to jazz, it can be applied to R&B. That's a whole nother thing that happens a lot. It can be applied to pop, so that's the difference to me.
It's real instruments and real crooning or singing from the guys working on the railroad or the slaves, whatever that was. Those songs were coming from pain and the hope for a better something, and so that's the soul.
There is nothing like soul music. It has a passion, an energy, and a culture all its own. But do we take the concept of soul music for granted? Does its definition still resonate with the same vibrancy that it did years ago? As a videographer, I've worked with a number of musicians, documenting their work. But going from client to client rarely leaves time for a nuanced discussion about the art form itself. In 2014, I decided it was time to research modern soul and how it has changed over the years. I quickly learned that the topic was bigger than any one documentary, so I boiled it down to a few questions that I've always wanted to ask. Topics range from production to internal politics of the industry. But I started with the very first question. Simply, how is soul music made?
The process is I live with the music first before I even write. You know, if I get a good instrumental that I like, I live with it. I breathe with it. It's in my DNA. I get it deep down in me. And sometimes it might take a year before I even write lyrics to it. for, a year and a half or 2 years before I write lyrics to it. But I live it and I breathe it. And then once it's embedded in me, I start to write. And then when I get chills, when I listen to it, I'm like, whew, like this is it, So that's how I know when it's time to go.
A lot of people ask, so do you start off with the music or do you start off with the lyrics? It differs. It differs. Sometimes I could just have a pen and a pad, just write. Get into the studio, I'm creating something entirely different. And then when I try to work on the lyrics, I could pick from like 2 songs that were never completed to form one. And then by the time I know it's ready to hit the stage, sometimes it hits the stage before it's completed in the studio as a test.
As an artist, I think you're always critiquing yourself to the very end. Even when the song is ready. When you're an artist, you're so transient, you're so emotional, you have a connection to every piece of art, good or bad. And one side of you may say, okay, this song is ready. I'm just ready to give birth to this and release it and just see what happens. At some point in time, you just have to say, okay, forget all the doubts and anxiety. I'm just gonna let it go.
Writing the song is the easy part. Preparing the song to perform to people or in front of people is the more difficult part, because you want your song to have a great first impression. The song is such a weird place for a musician or a songwriter, because to put a song in front of people, it has to be ready for you as an artist to share that message.
Rehearsal is the first step, the second step, and the third step is performing it. Rehearsal. You want to make sure that it just feels authentic and it feels true to the essence, that what you're trying to portray in the music. You want to make sure that it's grooving. You want to make sure that it's being true to the essence of what you're trying to do. And everybody's got to feel that way.
Every song that I've written has always come different ways. I don't think there's any 2 songs that have been written the same way. And sometimes it would start with the hook, sometimes it would start with the first line of the song, or sometimes a concept that I ended up putting at the end of the song. But just any way it goes, it's just like you have a whole bunch of puzzle pieces and you're trying to put them together to sound the best as possible.
For me, when a thing is ready to release, it's complete on paper. I can sit down from beginning to end and play it and enjoy it. And also when it comes down to like a full project, I believe if the message that you're trying to get across is, if a story is being told. I don't think albums now these days tell stories like they used to.
When you have ideas, you must record it. You must record it, even if it's just something that's 5 seconds long, because ideas come and go. But once you get past, the skeleton of your idea and you start to build up on it, I would have to say, once you finish writing a song from front to back, I don't think it's quite done yet. I think you got to get it in front of an audience. You have to test it out.
Despite what you see, just know there's more beyond the horizon. Love is not confining, but it's freedom and possibility. What holds more weight in this world than a substance of such purity? A substance of such purity. I
artists, we constantly move through different ideas creatively, and we need to be able to convey that moment as it pertains to the music. It's important for us to try to develop the music through the people. That's the best way to know when it's ready, because when people like it, they're gonna ask for it, they're gonna respond to it, and that's how you know it's ready. Man, you could wreck shop on the blue line with this. You just get our act together.
It was obvious we needed a historical perspective. What is the foundation of what we hear today? And where did the divide between old and new become visible? I was also curious about what role the city of Chicago played in all of this, since it's always been a crossroad for the music.
Soul in Chicago, a lot of our labels started here, like VJ, Chess, the Black Artist. Chicago really was a melting pot and a gathering from a lot of people from down south who came and migrated to Chicago. It all came together here in the north.
Chicago was the city that made or broke soul music. We were the tastemaker city. I mean, and just given on our history of the artists that came out of the city alone, you know, from Minnie Riperton, Chaka Khan, Donny Hathaway, you know, Herbie Hancock, Lou Rawls, Quincy Jones, The Emotions, the Staple Singers, Curtis Mayfield, you know, that's just a huge part of soul music history. And then not only that, like, a lot of people don't even know, like, Stevie Wonder was broke here. His first single, Fingertips, was recorded live at the Regal. And his My Sharia Moore, that's a big hit, that wasn't a hit. A Chicago radio personality flipped the B-side and played that song and broke it. You know, it was Chicago that named Aretha Franklin the Queen of Soul. She was crowned at the Regal by Purvis Band. You know, we have so much of that history, and I just feel like we haven't kept cultivating it. We haven't taken care of it. We haven't celebrated it enough.
Most of the artists that are big artists, their favorite city to play is here. They make the most money in Chicago. I was talking to A+ from Souls of Mischief. He's like, oh yeah, Chicago was always our biggest market. Everybody says that. So if we become cognizant of the fact that we have that kind of power, I think it will be easier to enjoy the music instead of being so tight all the damn time. There's just some great music here in this city on every level, particularly soul music and music made by Black people. A lot of great music of different genres, just period. A lot of great music in this town, man, but we got to stop chasing people away, being so hard on them. We started telling them we love them and we dig what they do because they're good.
By the mid-'80s, many of like the soul and funk bands of the 70s had started either disbanding because the record labels was kind of pushing the lead vocalist to go solo, kind of pushing the solo voices, and then it became more about the voice than the band, and then from there it became more about the voice over any old production. And then the 90s came in, and came in like the late 80s, early 90s came in like the New Jack Swing era, into the R&B hip hop era. You didn't really, in the mainstream, there really wasn't any soul artist being promoted. And so along came artists like D'Angelo, Erica, whose sound mimicked that a bit more of like 70s artists. Erykah Badu, a direct influence was like Chaka Khan and Rufus. D'Angelo had that Marvin. And from there they started to kind of repackage soul music. And that's where the alternative soul and the neo soul and all those terms came from, basically because in the 90s they were repackaging soul music to try to sell it to a market all over again.
The topic of naming stirs strong emotions in the soul music community. The concept of alternative soul was embraced and rejected in almost equal measures. It is a phrase that recently emerged as a replacement to the label neo soul that was used in the late 80s and early 2000s. But even neo soul had its critics. So I knew that this was a sensitive subject. So I posed it to a few musicians, carefully, to see how they would respond.
Alternative soul is when the music is mixed with a non-traditional style.
It allows an artist of color to be more free and not necessarily pigeonholed to straight R&B or straight soul music.
Afropunk is a great example of the alternative soul movement, where you're still getting soul, but you're also getting punk mixed together. It's more of a futuristic style and appeal it's taking on, you know, a lot of different personas to different artists that I've seen.
We can take risks. We can do what we want to do because we own our concept of our music. Our concept of our music as alternative soul artists is our real and true self in musical vibration.
You know what I'm saying? I don't even think it's such a thing as alternative soul. Alternative, they're like saying, what, alternative bread. You know what I'm saying? Right. Alternative crackers. Right. No, soul music is just soul music. It's from the heart, it's from within, you know. Right. It's just like catching the Holy Ghost in church. Right.
There cannot be an alternative to an original. You can come up with your version of it, but as far as it being alternative soul, it's, I guess, just like the word, you've added something to it.
I don't even know why we bother to try to categorize. It's just good music, you know? It's good music, or it's bad music, or it's music you just don't listen to, you know?
So why the divide? If independent musicians are praised by critics and fans alike, why is commercial success so elusive? If it's not talent, if it's not respect, what is keeping indie, indie?
No one ever said that it's the best that are going to make it. No one promised that. And that's in any medium of art or in areas of life. No one said that if you're the best, then you're going to be the one that makes it. That's not how it works. So understanding that there's art, the art form, that has been there since the beginning of time. And then there's the arts industry.
Big dollar, big dollar. Big dollar's controlling everything, because if you ain't got the big dollar, you can't survive.
I think we take more chances because we're investing literally our own money. So at the end of the day, if someone else is kind of putting their own money into it, I don't think we would really take those really big chances. But you have to go work someplace else and then take that money, put it into this here. Oh, you're gonna take some chances, but you're gonna make sure that it comes out right. Because that's your money. It's your money on the line.
If you have a budget, it's a lot of doors that are opened, or should I say more expansive budget. And mainstream artists, they have that. And it's a lot of indie artists who find benefactors and people to help support what they do. But you can tell musically, they don't have a particular direction. The videos are all kind of videos that have been done a million times over. And what I want to say is, if you know, the indie person is David and mainstream is Goliath, then you have to give people something else other than just, well, my song is really cool.
If you have an audience of 20, you performing and there's 20 motherfuckers in the audience, okay, you upset 20 motherfuckers doing some shit that is like, what the fuck is he doing? I mean, but if you got 20,000 people going, what the fuck is that? That boo way louder. That boo way louder. That yay much stronger. So it keep, the pressure it is to have such a large or be a commercial artist to really to give the audience what they're used to.
I realized that it takes work. It takes work. And I think
perhaps that's what soul music captures, the work of a moment. It like captures that work, lends it to us in a way that we're also able to see that work, that soul work, that, you know, that's why it's soulful. It's, it tugs, you know, it pulls, it massages. None of what it does comes timidly or passively. You know, it is a beating of the heart.
I wish I could wrap this documentary into a single conclusion, but the truth is, soul doesn't work that way. It's loving and familial. It can be heard from the blue line to the largest arenas, but it really can't be defined. Despite the divides and seemingly unjust fame, despite the financial struggles and waning support system, it remains beautiful, it still thrives, and it's still here.